The great quantum deception. The quantum deception. I mean, quantum is everywhere. It's interesting. It's permeated society. It's fascinating to me that everybody wants to be quantum. You got to have quantum this and quantum that. It's amazing. It's really the next best thing since sliced bread. Oh, wait, maybe we could do like quantum bread, and that would be like even better than sliced bread. I don't know. But let me talk to you a little bit about quantum and how this narrative has been put in place by those that control the world and to really ensnare, entrap you so that there is no clear thinking of what is beyond the quantum realm. And what's interesting is there's so many people that have bought into this because they have not constructed a process in which to think beyond the veil and understand that this is a trap. Give you a great example is I talk to spiritual teachers all the time, and I coach some, and I asked them, I said, so talk to me a little about your teaching model. And it's like, oh, Joe, this is great. We came up with this whole big quantum thing. I'm like, well, that's fantastic. So tell me about exactly how you're integrating the quantum aspects into your teaching. And they start going off and talking to me, and I'm like, okay, well, stop for a second. So just to make sure I get a basis and understanding, are you talking about the Copenhagen interpretation or the many worlds interpretation or one of other 30 different interpretations around quantum mechanics? And they're like, what? I just stopped them dead in their tracks. So I know I'm not going to have a conversation with them about superposition. But the important thing is if they are teaching quantum whatever within the structure of their course, without trying to just be cool, but actually understand some of the nuances of quantum mechanics, you actually have to understand the models, the interpretations, and follow one. I don't care which one you follow, at least have a basis or grounding in one of the 30 plus quantum mechanic models. Now, what's interesting about quantum mechanics is that it was actually introduced in 1924 in Germany. So with that, welcome Evolutionaries. I am excited that you're here today to talk about quantum mechanics and this false narrative that has ensnared the world to entrap you, to keep you from realizing your infinite self, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today, because this is the Awakening series to break you free of the snare that has captured you. At least some of you. I mean, maybe none of you, because you guys are all watching me, so you're all like way smarter than some of these teachers teaching quantum stuff. Anyway, so back to the quantum. So looking at the Copenhagen interpretation, which was the first paper that was published in 1924 in Germany by Max Born and Werner Heisenberg. I mean, cool names, right? I mean, God, I'd love to be like called Heisenberg. I mean, that just makes me sound smart. And then, of course, the many worlds, which is, they're the two primary interpretations of quantum mechanics out there, which was published by Hugh, Everett, and I think it was 1954, so it was about 20 some odd years later. So both those models have really obvious flaws in them, and they don't play together as well. So when you talk about the two major interpretations for quantum mechanics and they don't play together, well, what does that really tell you about a teacher, or at least the common theme of the narrative surrounding quantum theory, quantum mechanics? Well, to me, it screams that nobody knows what they're talking about. And so when somebody's out there teaching quantum mechanics or quantum theory, you've got to scratch your head because they don't know what they're talking about. Because some of the smartest people in history that invented the formulas, the math, don't even agree. They don't understand. And so what does this narrative mean, since it was started or kind of initiated in 1924, which is 100 years ago, more or less. I mean, so like 96 years from today or whatever. But the important thing to realize is that in order to capture something that is new, you're not looking at something 100 years ago, because technologies, information, interpretations, models are kept from you and I. And so part of this, actually the main theme of this Awakening series is really to help you ask questions to think and see beyond the veil in which these people have ensnared you. And again, it's not just you. Like I said, I can Google spiritual teachers quantum and I come up with pages. So it just tells me that these spiritual teachers don't know how to think. And so I'm really wanted to share this because I don't want you to get entrapped in a quantum philosophy that, while it sounds cool, has no basis in reality. Really, because I guess it is a quantum reality. Anyway, going back to quantum bread, I think that's kind of like a cool thing too. Anyway, so as we kind of go through this, let's look at history. We talk about, I was just talking about the quantum mechanics and the interpretations back to 1924. Do you know when, let's just say, the turbojet engine was developed? Well, the turbojet engine, which is what flies all of our aircraft today, at least in the public perception, was invented or discovered or put together, however you want to say it, invented, let's just say, in 1930 in Germany. The Germans invented the turbojet. So, why haven't we increased or improved our ability? Yeah, they fly a little bit faster. Since 1930, we still have these lumbering big aircraft that fly with turbojet engines. Well, of course, then that's for the public discernment. But when you step and go beyond that and start looking at some other things because you're asking questions, you begin to understand that there are hypersonic, faster than light vehicles. They're anti-gravitic, meaning that there's no gravity. Gravity does not have a play with regards to how these things work. And then you start looking, and then some of these anti-gravitic vehicles go back to the 1940s where they figured out anti-gravity. So when I look at quantum mechanics, I begin to wonder and speculate because I ask questions, what's beyond quantum mechanics? What's beyond quantum theory? And I'm really curious what it is that they don't want us to know. So again, step out of the narrative that they have tried to control and jump and free yourself from the trap. So I'm here to teach you how to think. That's really my goal because my whole goal is to unsnare you so that you break the reincarnation cycle. And hopefully some of these teachings you can apply for prosperity and abundance, but really I am focused on how to free your soul. And that is the most important thing to me. And again, it's breaking the narrative that they flood you with and really kind of seeing the lie, the deception, because there is so much more than the quantum. Because the way they present it, the quantum is the be-all, end-all, and I can tell you absolutely that it's not. So when we look at the model of kind of how things have developed over time, we've got, us as matter, we matter. Oh, pun, that's a cool pun. It's like, oh, we're matter, so we must matter. And then, of course, you've got the whole atomic thing, and then subatomic, and I can go into quarks and this and that. Then, of course, there's the quantum. But if you notice that as we kind of grow through these different knowledges or narratives, I will say, is that they're all ensnared within different loops of time-space. And so the quantum is nothing more than a trap. It is a construct that they have placed you in because they don't want you to think beyond the construct. And I'm here to break you free of that construct. I'll at least give you a little nudge so you can kind of go, oh, Joe, I don't know if I want to go down there. It's like it's over there. But that's again your choice, and I'm here to empower your free will to make that choice. So when I look at, let's just say the celestial mind of God, because that's really where I play. I play within the celestial mind. That's how I think with regards to, and if you watch some of my previous videos, I talk about unlaws and celestial currency, where I'm tying definitively consciousness into our DNA to awaken this matter within our bodies, our DNA structure. I was say DNAtic. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool word. The structure that, probably from a past life, I guess. I don't know why I said that, but it sounded really cool. But I'm here to help awaken that. So when you look at on a spectrum, let's just look at it on a linear spectrum of where we are today, and then of course through the different narratives that I talked about here with regards to atomic, subatomic, and then we've got the quantum. So the quantum is here. Now, my guides, the people that kind of instruct me from the etheric, that have given me insight into this, have shown me 32 layers past the quantum. So when we look at the quantum here, I'm here. So these are layers of consciousness that I've been able to kind of see beyond, which again, that's my mantra that my guides, that first mantra they gave me, which I've shared with you. And if you apply that, it's like you're always asking the question, what is beyond? How can I see beyond this? How can I see beyond the quantum? So I'm here, and of course, there's infinite layers of consciousness beyond even what I am aware of. And it's almost like I'm here looking back at hedgerows or little walls of consciousness. And when I look at the quantum, which again, everybody's making it seem like the be-all, end-all, is insignificant. I mean, really, it is a layer, it is a sliver of consciousness. And yet everybody's like going, wow. But the secret is when you expand your consciousness, you look at things in a completely different way. You see well beyond the atomic structure, the quarks, the quantum, and you go into different celestial aspects of the mind of God, which is really cool, much cooler than the word quantum or being in the quantum, because again, the quantum is a construct. It's a trap. Oh, this is, you'll love my drawing here. This is a mouse caught in a trap, a quantum trap. Oh, quantum mouse trap. Wow, I bet we could market that too. Wow. So we're on to like two big things, quantum bread and quantum mouse traps. So what's happening is because these spiritual teachers or whoever it is that are talking about the quantum and don't really have an understanding of it are really entrapping you within the construct of the quantum. And the word construct, emphasizing on the word is really important to understand, because you have to move past that, because you are infinite. There is nothing that can hold you back. So if you believe, and again, this falls into a belief structure because you are following a teacher that you trust, that the quantum is it, and I want to be this quantum being, well, you've fallen victim to a narrative, which, by the way, that teacher may or may not even know they're a part of. They could be actively controlled or passively controlled by the narrative and by the people who are controlling the narrative. Again, are you the puppet? Or because we're certainly not the puppeteers. Those are the people that are trying to control the narrative. So my goal here is just to help you like cut the strings, free yourself. That way you get to play and play among the stars, play in the celestial realm. It's much more fun than the quantum anyway. So my impression is those who do not understand consciousness, so those that do not understand consciousness, the celestial mind of God, fall prey to the cabal, the false narrative, to trap you in the construct of the quantum. So fall engage into the celestial mind of God and see beyond the narrative. And even I've been exposed to, because as Jesus said, you can do things far greater than I, and I'm just here to give you a nudge, because there are people in this world that I've had a chance to interact with that just blow my mind. I mean, and I'm trying to just kind of shake the tree a little bit to make some cool things happen for you, because I love you and I want to make sure that everyone here is able to expand beyond wherever they thought they could expand, go into the unknown, and then go beyond the unknown, because even the unknown, we have an idea of what that unknown might be. So, well, I can get very philosophical here. So again, people that talk about the quantum don't really understand consciousness. They're ensnaring you. Now, again, maybe not purposely, but they are not exercising their ability to think. So let me put this into perspective, because I talked about the false narrative of the quantum, and it's a 100-year-old theory which is permeating society today. But what's more important to understand, or not more important, but an aspect to understand how the narrative is controlled. Let's talk about E equals mc squared. So E equals mc squared is like the most famous mathematical formula really of all time. I mean, certainly there's some other ones that are out there that stand out. But E equals mc squared is probably, well, maybe the most popularly known mathematical formula by Albert Einstein. Correct? Ah, well, maybe not. So, and actually Albert Einstein's not his real name, but I'll get into that maybe on a different video because, or maybe not, because I want to stay on YouTube for a little bit. And I don't want to go too far down different rabbit holes. But E equals mc squared was not discovered by Albert Einstein. It was actually discovered by an Italian scientist, Olento di Pretto, and I'm probably just doing horrible things to his name, so I apologize. But Olento, or Dr. Pretto, di Pretto, actually wrote a white paper and presented this working scientific paper in 1903 in Italy. And what's interesting about this is that Einstein's working paper was very similar to Dr. Pretto's. Okay, and you're probably going, okay, Joe, well, that's just one example. And again, what about the theory of relativity, right? I mean, obviously, he's kind of like this godlike figure. Well, you know, maybe not so much. So think about the theory of relativity. There were actually some love letters that were discovered between he and his first wife, and I'm sure the people that control the world hate the fact that these love letters were discovered. Because to me, in the way I have come to see Einstein, is he was a proxy, a puppet, and was a front guy for what they wanted us to know. Because when you look at his first wife, Mileva Marek, who I believe is Austrian-Hungarian, and what was contained in these love letters, and really more on her part, and of course this is highly debated, and of course it's going to be because you've got the people trying to maintain the narrative, and then you've got people trying to break through with the truth. And I'm one of those truth guys, so I'm all about breaking the narrative. But Mileva Marek actually had some really interesting input around the ideals in the mathematics for the theory of relativity. And there's actually some notation that she was the one that actually came up with the idea. Now, could it have been the fact that they, the people that, again, controlling the narrative, just wanted, because it was a woman and it was a male-dominated scientific environment at the time, wanted to keep the women out? And that's possible. But I like to conjecture that it was just a control thing, plain and simple. So it was even beyond that she was a woman, a brilliant, brilliant woman who really needs to take her place in history. But the people that control the narrative had different ideas. And again, if you control the puppet, i.e. Einstein, then you control the narrative. And I can kind of go down with Werner von Braun and a number with Operation Paperclip, Nazi, and just lots of different things. But I think you get my point. So who is a puppet? Who is the puppeteer? And if you control the narrative, you control the story, you control the thinking. Because, again, the people that are out there teaching quantum theory, quantum mechanics as an example in the spiritual space, and that's really the only space that I am diving into at the moment, then I control you because I am planting seeds that are not really relevant or true within your conscious, within your mind and your brain so that you think they're true. So then at that point, I control free will because you're now making decisions based on what seeds I planted inside of your brain, your mind, in order to have them blossom, because now I am reinforcing them because I am a teacher who you have bought a course from, and you are learning this false narrative that's 100+ years old that now is come into light. And of course, if I control your free will, I control you. I will repeat that. If I control the narrative, I control your thinking, I control your free will, I control you. So, evolutionaries, see beyond, think beyond the constructs that any narrative, and I'm talking about the quantum here, but any narrative that somebody tries to put you inside of. Break free of that because you are boundless, infinite beings. So, break free of the false constructs. And again, because of my mantra, see beyond, my guides gave me very early on, I am aware and more aware of different constructs, and I ask questions. And just like Socrates, great thinker, but he always taught by asking questions. So always ask the question, what is beyond this? What can I see beyond? So I've learned, because of my mantra, see beyond, what the clowns in action, if you can see, clowns in action would cringe, because I've been exposed to all kinds of great and crazy things. Because as my consciousness expands, as I ask questions, I get introduced to people that I would never, ever have met to help me, that impact my thinking with the truth. It's kind of like the moon landings. We all know the moon landings were false. Well, a lot of people don't. And actually, there were several at the end that were secret moon landings that were not in the public purview. But again, that's a different video talking about that. But again, it's controlling the narrative. So here's my point in this episode. You create your reality unless you allow yourself to become trapped inside a false narrative. So you are an infinite spark of God within the celestial mind of God. So you are an infinite spark of God. So your goal is always to expand. So don't get caught up in this human narrative, because the quantum, as an example, if they can measure it, which they can measure it, and don't even get me started on the double slot experiment, because that's so fake. But if they can measure it, my point is, that's still within the material realm. And what I'm trying to do is inspire you with the intention of going beyond the material into the spiritual, into the celestial mind of God, where the cool stuff really happens. So my challenge to you in this awakening series is to see beyond, see where others cannot, challenge the narrative, see beyond what is known, and then go a little bit further. This will help you from getting trapped in the 100-plus-year-old narrative the bad guys put in place to limit you. And you're like going, well, Joe, that's kind of crazy. The bad guys? Yeah, the bad guys. I mean, I just talked to you about Einstein. I mean, really, who would have thought? Unless you ask questions, unless you see beyond. And this is important to understand, because we create our reality. And so this is the very first thing. I mean, I'm not an MIT or Stanford or Harvard PhD. I mean, I know things now because I ask questions. I see beyond the veil. I to understand things. And even quantum mechanics, as cool as it is or was 100 years ago, there are much more cooler things today that if you ask questions and see beyond the veil, see beyond the current narrative, that you get exposed to, and it puts you light years ahead of where they're trying to entrap you. So again, the first thing my guys told me was to see beyond and what is known, and then go a little bit further. That's right. Look over the edge and go a little bit further than what you ever thought. And then once you've gone a little bit further, go a little bit further. So this is a mind exercise. So some questions. So break free of the trap. So let me, a couple quick questions, because again, I love Socrates, brilliant man. So if you see the quantum, so let me step back because I got a little excited. Here are a couple questions for you to ponder. And it's actually just the same question, but just apply this question around seeing beyond. So if you see the quantum, ask yourself, what's beyond the quantum? If you see angels, ask yourself, what's beyond angels? Now, let me stop for a second, because I've had interaction with Archangel Michael, with Metatron, and others, but I always ask myself, what's beyond what it is that I know now, what that I've experienced? And I've experienced different levels of angels, seraphim, but then even going beyond that and interacting with celestial angels, angels that were never known to Earth. And when you do that, it's really cool. It's kind of like what I showed you before with regards to going beyond the 32 layers of consciousness and into the unknown. Now, what's beyond, again, the quantum? Can I definitively define those or name those? No, because they don't have names yet, because they've yet to be discovered. So you, my friend, my evolutionary, I'm so proud of you for watching this. You get a chance to go into this undiscovered world, this undiscovered country. Go beyond where other people have tread. You're actually creating the path. So again, if you see blank, whatever that is, ask yourself, what's beyond blank? So what is it that's beyond? Always stretch the mind, the consciousness. Expand and break free of the trap, because this expansion is all directions. It is within the celestial realm. It is all things. It is who we are as a spark of God, as an infinite being. It is who we are meant to be. And I am so charged up today to share with you how to break free of the narrative. And again, the quantum is one thing. That false narrative that's easily dispelled. What I want you to do is, how do you apply this in normal life? How are they keeping you down? Whether it's a job or whatever it might be, or whatever. How can I see beyond to move past that to create value for myself? How can I add value? And I'm going to do a video on law of attraction and really the false narrative around the law of attraction, because God doesn't want you to attract. That's false. And if you want to play in the lower realms, that's fine. But if you want to truly be a godly being of source, this God spark, you create. And when you create value. If you attract, you're being selfish. Anyway, that's a different video. But my whole point here is break free of the narrative. I love you guys. Ask questions. Leave comments, because this awakening series is very near and dear to my heart. So let me know what you think about it, understanding the narratives. And even if you want me to do a second video on this, I can go into the atomic bomb. I can do a number of different things that were dropped in World War II that are absolutely false. You're like going, Joe, you piqued my curiosity now. Well, that's the goal, because now maybe you'll go down that rabbit hole and you won't need me to do a video on it, and you'll find out the truth around the atomic bombs in World War II. Anyway, I love you guys. See beyond, go beyond what is known, and then go a little bit further. I love you. Bye-bye.